Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in TTG's face-to-face series, where we speak to industry leaders about how their companies and how their brands are dealing and coping throughout the coronavirus crisis. Today I'm joined by a face perhaps some of you may know and some of you perhaps won't. I think this is Stuart's first sort of trade interview as it were, but I'm delighted to be joined by Riviera Travel's channel director Stuart Milan. Stuart, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Tom. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. So we thought it was a great opportunity to catch up with you, how obviously the tour operator and how the River Cruise Line are getting on. It's just to kick us off, Stuart, you joined the company at quite, I say, an interesting time, to say the least. Would you be able to sort of tell people whenabouts you joined and how you've been getting on since you joined Riviera?
Yeah, so essentially joined full time essentially towards the end of February. It's definitely a hit the ground running scenario, let's say. Luckily, I'd had previous experience of working with Riviera as a partner in a previous role. So I was familiar with the product and familiar with a few faces, and obviously I was very appreciative of that. And look, the team at Riviera, they're so welcoming, happy to share knowledge, extremely passionate about what they do and their product. And that's just made the whole scenario that much easier in the first place. So yeah, credit to the team, and yeah, it's a hands-on approach to everything at the moment anyway, isn't it? So
Yeah, very much so. It's quite a way to join, take up a new role is daunting anyway, let alone in these circumstances. And how have the rest of the team been coping with such an incredibly difficult time for the travel industry?
yeah, look, I think overall the team have coped tremendously. I mean, focusing on the trade sales team, essentially, the majority of those guys have been on furlough. But what we have tried to do is obviously keep some of the office staff, make sure that they're there to support the trade and the partners and their customers with their bookings. I think, considering the circumstances that we found ourselves in and the speed that the scenario hit everyone in the travel industry as a whole, they've done a great job, and hats off to them. I think they've coped really well.
And just if you wouldn't mind sort of explaining a bit more of your role, Stuart, you're sort of heading up the trade sales side of things, aren't you?
Yeah, that's correct. So on the whole, so I look after the trade agency sales team. I also look after the UK call centre here based in Burton. And I also look after some of the international sales channels through Oz, the US and Ireland as well.
So kept nice and busy.
Yeah, keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, and I suppose like many companies during this crisis, Riviera has had to make certain decisions to obviously look for the future of the business. I know in sort of last month the company announced a restructure. Would you be able to sort of just give us an update on where that is now and what sort of situation you're at with that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we're coming towards the end of it. We announced it, announced it about four weeks ago or so. I guess one thing from the trade perspective, I'm very conscious that obviously the trade agents and so on require the support from Riviera going forward. But we'll also need their support too. I want to boost our exposure, sales through travel agents in a fairly considerable fashion over the next few years, and that's why in the new structure we've actually put more resource into the frontline element of our trade sales team, but also retain the office-based roles. It's great to be able to retain the team and show our intent to the trade going forward.
So yeah, despite obviously the changes with other parts of the company, you're basically saying that nothing has changed trade-wise, and if anything, things have gotten stronger.
Yeah, exactly that. So we've put a new face out into the trade sales team, so into the network that hopefully a lot of the trade and agency guys will get to know, called Ashley Walker. He's a great fit for the team, great guy, and really looking forward to him representing Riviera going forward. I think it's a positive thing for us, and it does show our intent that we think that we've potentially undervalued trade agents in the past, but that's not the case now, and we're very much looking forward to getting out there and doing our part with our team.
Yeah, and would you mind updating everyone as to what sort of role Ashley will play? And in terms of the rest of the trade sales team, I believe that's sort of run by Tom Morgan, isn't it, reporting into yourself? Are you bringing the rest of the guys back on from furlough? Are they going to sort of visit agents and ramp things up? How's that looking?
Yeah, so all of our trade sales team are back now. So we've brought all the on the road team back. Currently on a part-time basis, but they're all eager and keen to get in touch with their contacts and see how things are, make sure everyone's okay. and get back to the world of selling. And selling holidays, that's what we're all here for, isn't it? So as I said, Ash, he'll be on the road as well. So he's on as an assistant business development manager. So he'll be supporting the wider team. And Tom, and yeah, Tom's back. Tom actually never went on furlough. He's been around the whole time, and obviously really supporting the agents through this whole event.
And in terms of obviously a huge issue that we've had, I'm not sure what that sound was there. Sorry, everyone. Who knows? The joys of technology. And obviously a huge issue throughout the industry has been the refunds process, bookings amendments. Could you give us an update on where you're at with that now currently? Is there a sort of percentage of rebookings to amendments? How are you guys, how's the team getting through that at the moment?
Yeah, so obviously it's been a challenging time for everyone on that focus. I think as a whole, our customers, whether that be direct or through travel agents, do you know what, they've been so understanding about the situation, and actually a huge number have transferred their bookings into a future holiday with us. Now, look, I'm going to admit, at the start we were a little bit on the back foot, mainly from the speed as the situation progressed. But I'm happy to say now that we're in a position where we're actioning refunds in a timely manner, and we're back within the 14 days. So we're back within kind of the regulation 14 days. A lot of our agent partners have done a great job in retaining bookings, and I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank them all for the effort they've shown and continue to show in retaining our customers on future Riviera holidays.
Because as you said, it hit everyone with such a speed, didn't it? Obviously the travel restrictions and different countries closing borders and whatnot, and brands really had to react quickly. What was it like on the ground? And as you said, it was sort of, you were taken on the back foot a little bit. Was it a very difficult situation to have to deal with?
Yeah, it was. I think because there was so much unknown to begin with, it was everyone assumed that it would all go away quite quickly. Well, I think everyone assumed that. I certainly did. But once we got a week, 2 weeks into it, and you start to realise the size of the situation that was unfolding, then we had to make some pretty tough calls to begin with, and then evolve those calls as we went through the process, and understood what the right course of action was to take.
So what's the situation now in terms of when you sort of hope to restart operations for obviously for escorted tours and for river cruise? What's the situation? Obviously, it's incredibly fluid. We saw last week, given the FCO's travel sort of relaxation and with quarantine exemption list, whatever sort of that really means. But yeah, what's the situation now on what sort of Riviera thinking in terms of restarts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a tough call to make, isn't it? I mean, we're all here to do business. We're all here to take people on holiday. What we're currently doing is we're going through the process of working through what a sensible approach is to starting holidays again. We have cautious optimism that we'll operate again this year, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later. But I think one thing that we definitely must stress here, and it's something that's widespread through Riviera, that will only operate if we can assure ourselves that our customers' holiday experience is every bit as good as they expect it to be, which also obviously includes being safe and secure on those holidays.
And with river lines, perhaps they're a bit easier suited than perhaps ocean counterparts in terms of getting back. We've seen a few lines now, sort of Erosa, Quasi Europe, a few others who are starting to get back. Is there a rough date perhaps in mind, or is it sort of still too early to say?
So I mean, ideally it'll be some point in September. If we can get out sooner, then that'd be great. But I think it is cautious optimism right now, as I say, and we're not going to push anything through if the customer sentiment isn't there. If the customers don't want to travel, then that's fine. We need to listen to the customers, and we'll do right by them. But we also want to offer people the opportunity to travel. There are enough people wanting to travel as well. So you don't want to take that away from those customers that are willing to go.
Do you think last week's announcement in terms of air corridors and quarantine exemptions, do you think that helped with consumer confidence, or do you think it just added an extra layer of confusion in a way?
I think it did help. I mean, we had our biggest trading week for a long time last week. So I think it has opened people's minds to the fact that they could be traveling again at some point in the near future. On the converse side of that, I think it's also created a little bit of doubt as well for some customers who think that they're perhaps not in a position to be willing to travel. But you know, we do right by the customer. If someone's uncertain that they're not wanting to travel in the next kind of 6 weeks or so, and even further, September, then we'll just make sure that we're doing right by them and moving those that feel a bit uneasy. But yeah, there's definitely an uptake in bookings since the government changed its advice. Definitely the river cruise touring as well. So Canada for us has been a big hit over the last week or so. River cruise on all our itineraries for 2021. But even, you know, September, October, we're getting bookings for this year, 2020. So, and that's across touring and river cruise. So yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to get back to an element of normality in terms of sending people away and booking holidays rather than the reverse of refund credit notes and cancellations.
Yeah, and do you think in terms of obviously Riviera catering for perhaps a more mature market of travellers, do you think the influx in insurance policies, because perhaps a month or two ago coronavirus around insurance was very difficult to see, and now more and more providers have stepped into that breach and have put COVID-19 on their policies in different ways? Do you think that's definitely helped?
Yeah, that's undeniable. I think, you know, one of the biggest concerns we were getting whilst we were going through the early stages of this event was essentially people were scared of travelling because they thought they weren't going to have the relevant travel insurance in place. I think there's still an element of confusion on some travel insurance policies, whether they're covered up. So it is a case of, you know, the customers need to make sure that they're reviewing their policies and speaking to their policy advisors. But I think hopefully more and more people will come out saying, look, don't worry about it, COVID-19 symptoms and events are covered, and that will definitely boost especially our demographic for those travelling in the coming months.
And you mentioned there in terms of where some customers were looking to book, and you said that September and October is still not out of the question, which is great. And then in terms of 2021, yeah, what you mentioned Canada, what kind of destinations are you seeing and what products?
Yeah, so I mean, on the whole, it's our river cruise product, and it's everything all the way from, you know, the spring sailings all the way through to August, September, October next year. So, and that's not just transfers; it's new bookings, which is really pleasing to see. You know, we've had some decent group bookings come in over the last week or so, and it's, you know, it's all across all the rivers, so all our mainstays along the Danube, the Rhone and Rhine, and the Douro as well. So it's pleasing to see. Long haul on tours that's a little bit down, but I think that's to be expected at the moment. But the European tours bookings are doing okay.
And in terms of fleet expansion, I know that Riviera has over the years, it's always been adding to its fleet of river ships. How's that looking? I know some lines I think most lines are sort of keeping their construction sort of schedules as they are, but they're obviously could change. How's yours? Are you still? I think you're believing that you're launching a ship next year. Is it at all? Or?
Well, so that was our intention. But I think, you know, what we need to make sure that we do is just look at our capacity and make sure that we're forecasting in the right way that fits us as a business and the way that we see demand next year. You know, I think more likely than not that will go on hold. But then, you know, it's a pause rather than it's not going to happen. So it's very much how do we bring it back into the fold and continue with the growth as we were in 2022.
And in terms of some of the new health policies and new tour procedures and also operating, what might a Riviera travel holiday look like in this new sort of COVID era?
Yeah, I think you know what, we've been working with the public health experts. You know, we've got a guy called Ian Greaves, who's one of the most well-respected advisors in the industry. I think what we need to do is make sure that the customers are getting a great holiday safe in the knowledge that we can operate at the highest national and international standards. Now, our river cruises on the whole are actually already designed to be a bit more spacious than some of our competitors anyway. So this means that, you know, river cruises are naturally more spacious, and social distancing in the public and the restaurants, public areas and the restaurants is easier for us anyway. But obviously there are a number of additional steps that we're taking to ensure our customers have a safe and enjoyable river cruise, whether that's increased hand sanitizing, and so on and so forth. No buffet for breakfast, for example. Everything's going to be table served and so on. But there's a whole raft. There'll be some health screening as people come on board, the constant screening whilst we're going through the chips. But what we're trying to do is obviously minimise the impact of that on the customer's holiday, but whilst making sure that we're safeguarding their experience and their health whilst they're with us.
And when do you think, obviously, again, it's still quite fluid and you're still working with experts to figure that out. When do you see likely sort of communicating that to agents? Is it a little bit down the line, perhaps, you think?
So I think it's once we understand when we're going to operate. So we have shared some information in terms of top level documents with some of our key agents with regards to get their feedback more than anything else in terms of, do they think it's the right approach? Do they feel comfortable in selling it? Because we're going to have to go down a whole training program of training the agents in terms of what the customer experience is going to be like. But I do think it's when we get into a full communication framework with the agents, it's probably more dependent on when we're going to operate, rather than just because everything's so fluid at the moment. It's changing week on week. What our operating procedure is for right now might be completely different in 7 days' time. So let's make sure we're getting the right information to the agents once we know when and where we're operating.
And as Riviera, in terms of working with the trade, does it feel like a bit of a fresh start? I think you said it earlier, Stuart, in terms of sort of not perhaps undervaluing agents, you said, but not perhaps getting enough use, enough support in there. Does it feel like a good way to sort of almost restart things and go again with working with agents, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think our plans for working with the trade going forward, they're big. We'd see travel agents as a key route to market, to boost our return, as it were, and to boost our comeback. We do know that we've underutilized the travel agent network in the past, and we want to rectify that. It's very much, Riviera is very much an understated brand in the market, and I want to make sure that Riviera become the go-to product for tours and river cruising within the agency network. So obviously, to do this myself, Tom, the team, we're desperate to get out there, make sure that we're putting some meaningful long-term commercial contracts in place with the right agents, and hopefully that's our starting point. And it's very much how do we go from our current share of Riviera business, which is it's in the teens, let's be honest, up to in 2-3 years time, how is that a third of our business?
So is that the plan then, to make sort of trade a third of the, yeah?
Ideally, that's where I would like to get to. So myself and Phil, who obviously joined as CEO, as you mentioned, around the same time as me, the 1st of March. So we are very much how do we develop our distribution strategy over the coming months and years. And trade is a key focus for us. And yeah, it would be great to significantly grow our share of business through the trade.
And how do you do that at the moment? Obviously, it's incredibly difficult. You can't just perhaps go out to meet agents. Is it a case of more digital stuff? Is it a case of more training? Kind of what you mentioned some of those big plans. Is there anything you can sort of tease or allude to?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is just making sure that we're actually talking to agents more, and whether that be on a video chat or where we can face to face or phone calls. It's just increasing our regular communication with our key agents. Tom, obviously, he's been tasked with understanding how can we deliver training and so on to the agent network. And it's going to have to be virtual. We're going to have to have virtual plans in place to deliver training. Where we can, we'd love to get in some stores, obviously with the right precautions in place. I think the team are really eager and keen to get back and see as many people as they can. But I think they're also of the understanding that we need to change the way of working. We have to go through the virtual routes. We're going to have to create more training videos rather than in-store training and so on and so forth. It's a great opportunity to just stop, think, reassess what we're doing, and really push the boundaries in terms of digital thinking when it comes to training. The other thing we'd love to do, we need to get more people, more agents out experiencing our product. And I think actually it's a prime time in the coming months towards the end of the season, and probably next season. It's a prime time to get agents out there where hopefully demand is back strong, but no doubt we'll have some space that hopefully we can utilize for agents and get out there and experience the product.
Yeah, it seems to through somewhere or other to have that extra capacity that perhaps you might not have had at certain times to really push that towards the end.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the plan then, to sort of to get far more agents on board to really experience it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the methods that we're going to utilize that capacity for. You know, why wouldn't we? You know, if we've got something going empty, then let's put someone on there that can hopefully fill us it in 2022. So yeah, it's not just the UK agents, but also international. You know, so let's get some Australian agents. You know, the US agent group is definitely one to try and get over as well. So yeah, it'd be great to have a couple of, you know, agent only cruises throughout summer 2022.
Oh, you think yeah.
21, sorry.
Yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. So it sounds like, despite all the sort of the uncertainty and the fluidity right now, that you guys seem incredibly, you know, wanting to invest in the trade, which is great to hear.
Yeah, I think the trade has supported us. You know, they do still do a significant amount of business. It's now that how do we start really help them push us further, and you know, that works both ways. You know, they're going to need more from us and we're going to need more from them, and I'm looking forward to going on that journey with the agents.
A great nice place to conclude there, Stuart. But thank you so much for your time, and to everyone for watching. Yeah, all the best, and good luck with everything.
Thank you very much, Tom. Cheers. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.